Why is reflection important in an ePortfolio? ePortfolios provide a powerful environment in which to collect and organize artifacts that result from asking students to engage in challenging, real-life tasks. What differentiates a scrapbook from ePortfolios is that students write reflections through which they can draw meaning. Reflection is the process of stepping back from an experience to ponder carefully and persistently its meaning to the self. Reflections on artifacts within an ePortfolio allows the instructor and others to understand why these items were chosen to represent the student and his or her capacities. Reflections can provide some of the best indicators of student growth. However, some students have a difficult time thinking about their own learning without guidance or support. Instructors need to help students learn how to reflect. We know the conditions for reflection: time and space, a good facilitator, a supportive curricular or institutional environment, and an emotional supportive environment. There are several models that can help you teach your students how to reflect on their learning and their artifacts. Killen and Toden categorize reflection in 3 directions. First, reflection on the action requires looking back on what one has accomplished and reviewing the actions, thoughts, and the product. The second form of reflection is reflection in action. In this activity, the student is responsible for reflecting while in the act of carrying out the task. The final reflective form centers on reflection for action. This reflection form expects the student to review what has been accomplished and identifies constructive guidelines to follow the success in the given task in the future. Another similar model for helping students write good reflections is the what, so what, now what model. For the what, the big question is, what did you do? The what component of reflection may include environmental factors, the condition or the background under which the student has learned, the assumption that the student entered the situation with a description of the experience itself, and the outcome that occurred through the process. For the so what, ask students to outline what impact or meaning it has for them, or why it should matter to others. For the so what, ask students to outline what impact or meaning it has for them, or why it should matter to others. The so what component of reflections may include relevances to the student as an individual, the degree of importance that this knowledge has to the practice in the real world, how the experience has changed you, and the ways in which this experience relates to the learner. The big question is, how is this learning important? For the now what, ask students to describe what is in store for the future now that they've learned from this experience. The now what component of reflections may include looking for future learning opportunities related to the one under consideration, mistakes that the student is now prepared to avoid, situations that the student is now prepared to take advantage of, an assessment of things that the student does not know how to do but would like to learn. The big question is, okay, now that you've done this, what else would you like to learn? Whatever model you choose, as an instructor, you need to help your students learn how to reflect on their artifacts. You can model the process for students, do some guided practice with students, and provide exemplars for students. In education in particular, we are encouraged to be reflective practitioners. However, for my ePortfolio, the reflections were the most difficult part. I was able to use the teaching quality standard to select artifacts for each area. After my Bachelor of Education degree, I had a lot of interesting artifacts to choose from to include in my ePortfolio. But when it came to reflecting, I had to consider each artifact and what, so what, and what next. This is the powerful piece of my ePortfolio, especially for me as a beginning teacher. The exciting thing about ePortfolios and the addition of multimedia technology is that my artifacts and reflections can be captured in either audio or video format. In conclusion, according to John Zubaretta in his books on learning portfolios in higher education, the primary motive of a learning portfolio is to improve students' learning by providing a structure for students to reflect systematically over time on the learning process and to develop the aptitudes, skills, and habits that come from critical reflection. Please watch the rest of our video series about ePortfolios.